This is a stock fan clutch at idle. You can barely hear any wind blowing. 2015, same year as my truck. And then I'll show you a video of my truck and see what it sounds like. But this really isn't pushing a whole lot of air. Here is the modified fan clutch install, pushing a ton of air. Alright guys, so these are going to be Toyota fan clutches. This is FJ60, which is an upgrade for an FJ40. This is an original FJ40, and this is a second gen Tacoma. So all of these things are going to be built relatively the same. They have this expansion spring that's going to engage the clutches depending on the heat that it's receiving through the radiator. And they're all going to have Phillips heads that you can take off and split in two. If you look right here, they're physically two pieces. So this one's referred to as the Aqua Hub. It's an upgrade for an FJ40 black hub, and you're basically looking for it to hit harder. So this one I could move pretty easy, but again, the oil inside is very old and it is considered a wear item. Think of it as a wear item. So this thing is way harder to spin. Now, I did put this in the FJ40 as is, thinking it would fix my problem, but it just wasn't moving the air hard enough. Now, I changed my Tacoma fan clutch about almost 2 years ago now. See, this one moves really easy. And so I ordered a brand new one. I split it in two and I put in a bottle of 10K CST. So this is the silicone fluid that they use from Toyota. Now, they're notoriously underfilled for better fuel efficiency, but that means the fan isn't spinning hard enough. Just by dropping this bottle in a new fan clutch, my Tacoma was moving air like crazy. You could hear it a lot. So I figured I was gonna go ahead and take this out of the FJ40 again and drop a bottle in because I know it worked. I did try to drop a bottle in here, but it's still moving really easy. I could try to save this by completely draining it and putting in that total amount with all 10K CST, because the US fan clutches are generally always filled with 6K, which is lighter. So let's move these two to the side. This is going to be your friend, a hammer punch with a Phillips. And I like to do it crisscross. Even though you're taking it off, to me it still helps. And again, I have not split this one open. So I'll link everything in the description below for this. Now, when I first looked into this mod, there was a lot of information on the FJ40 forum, I Hate Mud. Not a lot of info on the Tacoma world. I did see a few guys post about it a long time ago, and I actually reached out to one and he kindly responded to me and told me he just dropped the bottle in. I was wondering if I should completely drain it like some of the FJ40 guys, where you just flip it over in a Ziploc, get all the old fluid out, and then fill it up. But, you know, on my Tacoma, when I just dropped this bottle in a new fan clutch, it made a really big difference. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing here. If I were trying to keep this one alive, I would definitely drain it all out, get some new fluid in, and then call it a day. Okay, so we have all the bolts loose. I like to just give it a little twist and kind of just pull back the two halves. So there's a big giant O-ring right here. We're gonna go ahead and reseat it and make sure that when you put it back together, it's sitting the same way. And I'm just going to rub a little bit of that oil that dripped out onto the seal. That way I don't have to worry about it when I put them back together. Now you'll see people advertising modified fan clutches. This spring is going to engage the clutches depending on the temperature of the air that's hitting it. You can move these Phillips screws and adjust this to literally engage at different temperatures. It's pretty crazy. There's a lot of info out there, but I didn't do that with the Tacoma and I had no issues. So I'm not going to do that with this, but just keep in mind that is something you want to do if you want to get even more in depth with this little side project. So we're gonna go ahead and fill this up. You could fill up either half, but I like to fill up this half since I'm not measuring out fluid. And you could see how thick this stuff is. I forgot to mention the modified fan clutches that you're seeing online. They're most likely changing the fluid or adding fluid the same way, as well as changing the temperature that the spring engages. So quite a few little mods you can do to this piece. It's really cool if you've never opened it up before. And this stuff's really thick. You can actually leave it in the sun if you want, so it could thin out and it won't take as long to pour out. But we're not going to do that here. We'll just go ahead and drop this in. I have seen some people use RC CST fluid, the silicone fluid for RC cars and trucks. I don't recommend it. I'd rather just use an OEM Toyota. This is Toyota, and you know it's made for a fan clutch. The other stuff's made for like RC shocks, so I don't know how good that is. I believe sometimes that fluid will thin out over time because it wasn't made for this type of use. So spend a little bit of extra money, get a bottle of this from Toyota. You could order it at any dealer or online. I found it easier to order it at a dealer. Some of the online retailers have it overpriced. But we are just about finished up here. Otherwise, we'll be here all day waiting for that last bit. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and make sure this is laid down in the valley correctly. And we're gonna go ahead and just spin it so it lines up, so that boss will go into that flat piece. I forgot to mention, you can mark maybe a fin or two to put it back on the exact same spot. If not, don't worry. You just put the two halves together and spin it till the fins line up. There's going to be quite a few little unique fin spaces that if they don't line up, you'll see it off a bit. So not a big deal. You can just drop it back on, spin it around, and you're good to go. Or get a Sharpie or a paint pen, mark up the fin on both halves, and you won't have to worry about it. You don't have to torque the heck out of them. You just want to make sure the hammer punch does move it a little bit in your hand. All right, we're back to the A, so we're good to go here. Oh yeah, this thing is way harder to move. I can't wait to get this back on and see how it feels. Alright, so the fan hit and then it disengaged as it should. Now that it's a little bit warmer, that's simulating what it would do on the highway. You would have a wind flow going through the radiator, not the fan blowing, so that's why it disengages at a higher RPM. Alright guys, we got the modified fan clutch reinstalled. I'm going to start it up, give it some revs, bring that RPM up, and what you're going to notice is that it's going to take much longer for this to disengage than it did on the previous clip that I just played. The previous clip with a non-modified fan clutch basically disengaged right away when we brought up the revs. This is going to be pulling more air, and this is mainly focused at slower speeds such as stop and go traffic or trail days. And again, this isn't just for the FJ40. This modified fan clutch will work on the second gen Tacoma. I did it to my truck years ago. I'm just doing it as an example on this platform because I had it out and I had a bottle of the 10K CSC to add in. So let's go ahead and get it fired up so you can see how much of a difference it's made before and after. So I'm not sure how well this picked it up, but I'm going to do a before and after just so you can see time-wise how much longer the fan is staying engaged than it was before I did the mod. Alright, so the fan hit and then it disengaged. This is a stock fan clutch at idle. You can barely hear any wind blowing. 2015, same year as my truck. And then I'll show you a video of my truck and see what it sounds like. Here is the modified fan clutch installed, pushing a ton of air. Alright guys, we're going to call it a wrap on this video. That is how you modify your Toyota fan clutch. It's really easy. This is mainly for the guys that are in hotter climates, that are doing trails that are on hot days, or a lot of stop and go traffic. Anyways, drop a comment, like, subscribe, share, do all that good stuff that helps this channel grow.